Everyone questioned? Everybody ready? All right, then at this point, let's go get the jury. You may be seated. All right, members of the jury, thank you for your patience. We had some matters to go over outside your presence. At this point, we're going to continue with the examination of Ms. Blay. You may proceed.
Investigator Blay, previously I asked you, other than the USB jump drive being plugged in and unplugged of Grant's computer, did you notice any other activity on Grant's computer that night?
I did.
Now specifically, what was it that caught your attention when you were reviewing these registry logs?
An iPhone with a particular serial number was connected to Grant's computer at 11:39 p.m. According to the Apple system logs, the lockdown file was not, iTunes was not able to find the lockdown file.
Let me stop you right there. So what does a lockdown file mean when you plug an iPhone into a computer? I mean, if you're an iPhone user, you may have noticed that when you connect an iPhone to a computer, it asks, would you like to trust this device? And you have to put your passcode. You say trust, and you put your passcode, and it can then talk to each other. So that's pretty much what a lockdown file is. So was that process, that trusting process, able to be completed between this particular iPhone and Grant's computer?
No, it was not.
So after that was attempted, did you notice anything else?
Yes, I noticed at 11:42 p.m. An iPhone was connected to an iPhone with the same UDID, unique identifier, was connected to this computer in recovery mode.
Now, can you tell the jury what recovery mode is?
Yes, it is a way to connect a phone into a computer, to connect a phone to iTunes without having to boot it up. So you can either restore the phone or update the operating system in it.
So you can either restore the phone or update the operating system. Can you do anything else with the iPhone when it's started up in recovery mode?
No.
And when you say restore the phone, what does that mean?
Like wipe the phone.
So you can't transfer any photographs?
No.
You can't transfer any documents?
No.
Sustained.
Can you transfer any photographs?
No.
Can you transfer any documents?
No.
Can you transfer anything?
No, you would need the handshake for it.
And there was no handshake
No.
there. I'm showing defense counsel what's been remarked as 15A and 14Z. May I approach the witness?
You may.
For the record, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked for identification purposes as 15A. Do you recognize this document?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
It has my initials and the date on the bottom left corner of it.
And what does State's Exhibit 15A purport to be?
It is the first page of my report for that iPhone backup that I found.
And I'm showing you, and let me ask you a question. Where did you locate this iPhone backup?
On one of Cody's computers.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 14Z. Do you recognize that?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
It has my initials and the date on the bottom left corner.
And what does State's 14Z purport to be?
It is the section of the registry, or a report containing the section of the registry related to the iPhone connection.
Is it are these items both fair and accurate depictions of what they purport to be?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, we move States 14Z and 15A as States next.
We will just re-raise our previous objection, Judge.
All right. What's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 14Z will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 244 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 15A will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 245 in evidence. As stated previously, that objection is overruled based upon the basis that the court previously stated.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Okay, I'm going to put on the overhead
State's Exhibit 245. Now, can you tell the jury what 245 is?
Yes, it is the first page of that extraction report that I did coming from the backup from Cody's computer.
And does it have a phone number on it?
It does. That's what this is right here.
407-687-0736.
Correct.
For the record, that's a fact that's been stipulated to by the parties, that that's Cody's phone number, or his cell phone. Now, are there any other unique identifying digits on this backup that you've found?
Yes, the serial number right here, which is the same serial number that I found on the computer. And this is the unique ID right here, which was also found on the computer.
I'm going to put on the overhead State's Exhibit 244. So can you explain to us what State's Exhibit 244 shows?
Yes, that is a printout of the information found in the registry. Right here it shows that on January 24, 2019 at 29:39 Eastern Time.
You said 29:39?
23:39, I apologize. This iPhone, which it says 5, 5C, 5S, or 6, because it takes that from right here. This is the product ID. That's why it says it could be one of those models, but it is for a serial number. You can narrow it down because of the serial number. And you can see the unique ID right here.
And this was information on this particular sheet of paper that was pulled from Grant's tower.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And what's the above section show us?
That was at 23:42 when an iPhone with this serial number, which is the same, the serial number that corresponds to this unique ID, was connected in recovery mode to that computer.
So the handshake didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the handshake didn't work, the phone was put in recovery mode.
Correct.
And what time was that hookup at?
Excuse me, Mr.
What
Lee?
time was the phone put in recovery mode?
23:42.
What's that in regular people time?
11:42 at night.
Now, I want to ask your opinion on something. When that phone was plugged in, Cody's iPhone was plugged in to Grant's tower, do you have an opinion as to what was being attempted at that time?
Objection, speculation, attempted by the plugging person.
Investigator Blay, during the course of your investigation, did you review the information contained on Grant's desktop computer?
I did.
Did you review the information that was contained on an iPhone located in the parent's bedroom?
I did.
Did you create otherwise a pattern of activity for these devices?
I did.
Did you review the times and dates that various activities were occurring in this house on the evening of the 24th of January?
I did.
Does that include looking at, and we'll get into this later, but health database files,
I did.
internet search terms,
Yes, I did.
how many steps people took,
Yes, approximately.
lack of activity on an iPhone,
Yes.
activity of Grant's computer located upstairs?
Yes.
Taking that information into account, when you discovered this additional information, and you testified that the phone was placed in recovery mode. Is that true?
It is correct.
And only two things can happen in recovery mode, is that right?
Yes.
And what are those two things?
You can restore the phone or update the phone, update the operating system on the phone.
Can you update the operating system of an iPhone without placing it in recovery mode?
Yes, you can.
How does that happen?
You put the password of the phone, and you go to the settings, and there is a section in the settings which allows you to update it.
So you have to have the passcode to that phone?
Yes.
And what's the other thing you can do in recovery mode?
You can restore the phone or wipe it.
Based upon all those things that you've testified to and all the evidence you've examined, do you have an opinion as to what was being attempted on Cody's iPhone?
Objection, speculation. May I approach?
What is that opinion?
Based on everything else that I examined, I believe the person was trying to wipe the phone.
Now, I'd like to discuss with you, now that we're done with Grant's computer, let's talk about the thumb drive, okay, the 32 gigabyte thumb drive. Maybe we had to put that up on the overhead while we're talking. It's State's Exhibit 232. Now, did you conduct a forensic examination of that particular item?
I did.
And can you tell the jury the steps you completed in order to do that examination?
The steps were similar to what I did with the hard drives and solid-state drives. I connected, after I photographed it and took notes of the condition, I connected the thumb drive to the write blocker of my forensic machine, and I used Encase Imager to make a forensic copy of the thumb drive. I then put the thumb drive away, and I use several forensic tools to examine the thumb drive.
Verify that your forensic image was a exact copy, bit by bit, of this particular hard drive?
Thumb drive, yes, I did.
Okay. And the hash values matched?
Yes, everything matched.
So was there any content on that thumb drive that was altered or deleted during your examination?
No,
What was the storage size of this particular hard drive, or excuse me, thumb drive?
32 gigs.
And did this particular thumb drive have a volume name?
Yes, it did.
What is a volume name?
So a volume name is a name that a user can give to a volume, or like a thumb drive, a hard drive. Or for example, I can name it my thumb drive work or Siri, or I can choose not to name it anything. I can just leave it with the default that it comes with.
What was the volume name for this thumb drive?
God's hand.
Now, you testified earlier that files were copied to that drive from a computer located in the defendant's room on January 24th, with some times as well. How do we know that to be the case?
By looking at the creation dates of the files in the thumb drive.
I'm showing defense counsel 9B for identification purposes. May I approach the witness? In the record, I'm showing you exhibit 9B for identification purposes. Do you recognize this item?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
It has my initials and the date on the bottom left corner.
And what does this item purport to be?
It is a subsection of my Encase report.
And what's contained in this particular exhibit?
It shows the first 10 files and folders that were copied to the thumb drive and on January 24th, 2019, and the last 10 files and folders copied to it.
Move 9B as states next.
No objection, Judge.
All right, what's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9B will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 246 in evidence.
And you mentioned that this was the first 10 files and the last 10 files.
Yes.
Were there more than 20 files?
Oh, yes.
How many files were there about?
Approximately 2,508.
And for the record, I'm placing Exhibit 246 on the overhead. And so tell me about the top box. What does that tell us?
So these were the first 10 files and folders copied into the thumb drive. You have the file name here, or folder's name, in this case, of downloads and 2011 and 2015. You have the date when these files were created or in this volume, so in the thumb drive, which is January 24th, 2019 at 11:33 Eastern Standard Time, or starting at 11:33, and the size of the file.
And the last box contains the last 10 files, is that
In
so?
a similar manner, yes, the last 10,000 folders copied along with the creation date and logical size.
And when was the last file moved over?
On January 25th, 2019 at 12:27 a.m.
Now, you mentioned there were 2,000, what was it, 2,000 and
Over
about?
2,508.
Can you tell us generally the types of files that were on this particular thumb drive? And I'm referring to the photograph of State's Exhibit 232.
Yes, there were photos, videos, and documents in general.
Showing Defense Counsel 9B.
Are you saying 9D?
9D is in dog.
Thank you.
May I approach the witness? Investigator Blay, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 9B for identification purposes. Do you recognize this document?
I do.
How do you recognize this document?
It has my initials and the date on the bottom part of it.
And what does this document purport to be?
It is a paper printout of some photographs that were found on the thumb drive.
And is this a fair and accurate paper printout of the digital pictures that were found on that thumb drive?
It is.
We tender 9D as states next.
Objection based on our prior motions, Judge.
Objection overruled. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9D as in David will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 247 in evidence. 247.
Investigator Blay, excuse me. How many photographs are contained in this packet?
637.
Were there more photographs that were contained?
Yes, they were.
What is unique about these 637 photographs?
They appear to be of the same woman. Some of the photographs are explicit and some are not.
And the other photographs, were they missing anything in particular?
Oh, yes, the face.
Permission to briefly publish, Judge. Investigator Blay. In addition to these 647 photographs are contained within them, I'm showing Defense Counsel 9C. May I approach the witness? Showing you State's Exhibit 9C for identification purposes. Do you recognize that item?
I do.
And what is it that you're looking at?
A paper printout of the digital photographs found in that thumb drive.
And so are these paper printouts the paper replicate of the digital file?
Yes, they are.
Are they a fair and accurate depiction of what was contained in that thumb drive?
Yes.
We tender 9C to State's next.
Our previous motions, Judge.
All right. What's been pre-marked for ID as 9C will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 248 in evidence, and that would be, the objection would be overruled.
Permission to publish? Now, I have another question for you. With regard to the contents of the thumb drive, were there a number of videos contained on the thumb drive?
Yes.
Showing defense counsel, States Exhibit 10K and 10L for identification purposes. May I approach the witness? Investigator Blay, I'm showing you 10K for identification purposes. What is it that you're looking at here?
SCD.
And do you know what's contained on that CD?
A video that was found on the thumb drive.
How do you recognize this?
It has my initials and the date.
And is the file that's contained on that CD a exact duplicate of the file that was contained on that thumb drive?
Yes, it is.
I'm showing you 10L. Do you recognize 10L?
I do.
And how do you recognize it?
It has my initials and the date on it.
And what's contained on 10L?
It is a series of videos from that thumb drive.
And have you previously reviewed both of these?
Yes, I have.
And are they both fair and accurate copies of the information contained on that thumb drive?
Yes, they are.
Tender states 10K and 10L is states next.
Who will re-raise our motions in limine, Judge?
What's been pre-marked for ID is State's Exhibit 10K will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 249 in evidence, and what's been pre-marked for ID is State's Exhibit 10L will be moved into evidence as State's 250 in evidence. Objection will be overruled.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Alright, Sylvia, look at me. I'm outside. Going to the... I'm asking you if you can please send me your videos. I love so much when you send them to me. Yeah, I don't like playing your stuff. Alright, Sylvia, look at me. I'm outside going to check the mail. And I'm asking you if you can please, pretty please, send me one of your videos. I love it so much when you just send them to me. Yeah, I don't like buying your stuff. It makes me feel weird. Can you please send me one though?
Investigator Blay, State's Exhibit 10L, which is now State's Exhibit 250 in evidence, the other disc. I'm not going to publish it for the jury, but they can watch it on their own if they like. But can you sort of give them a general synopsis of what's contained on that disc?
Yes, it is a series of videos that I found on the thumb drive of what appears to be the same woman, just doing erotic actions.
Now, in addition to the photographs and videos that you testified to, did you locate any documents?
Yes, I did.
And I'm going to show defense counsel State's Exhibit 9F. First witness.
You may.
Do you recognize State's Exhibit 9F?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
It has my initials and the date on the bottom right.
And can you tell the jury what this document purports to be?
Yes, it is a paper printout of one of the documents that I found in the thumb drive titled apology.txt.
And how many pages is it?
Four pages.
Is this a fair and accurate paper printout of the digital version of the apology.txt file?
It is.
We tender State's 9F as State's next.
Judge, we will re-raise our prior motion to eliminate.
What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9F will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 251 in evidence. Objection overruled. All right, it's been entered into evidence at this point.
Now, Investigator Blay, are you familiar with the term metadata?
Yes, I am.
Can you tell the jury what metadata is?
Yes, metadata means data about data. For example, when you take a photograph, you can find information within the computer of when like what kind of camera was used to take the photograph, or on what date. Or same thing with a document, you can find the creation date of the document.
I'm showing defense counsel 10R for identification purposes.
You may.
I'm showing you 10R for identification purposes. Do you recognize this?
I do.
How's that?
It has my initials and the date on the bottom left corner.
And what does this document purport to be?
It is a subsection of my report showing the metadata for apology.txt and also the link file that I found responding to it.
Is this a fair and accurate paper printout of the digital information contained?
It is.
Tender 10R State's next.
Any objection?
We just re-raised our prior motion to eliminate, Judge.
All right. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 10R will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 252 in evidence. And the objection, again, overruled.
Permission to publish?
You may.
So what does what does 252, State's Exhibit 252 show us?
It shows when apology.txt was created and the link file associated to apology.txt. A link file is like a shortcut that the computer generates automatically. For example, this one in particular comes from the recent files. So when you're working on a document in the computer, you know that next time you access the computer, it sometimes gives you a list of, oh, these are the recent documents that you have access. Well, all that information comes from the link file.
And when was the apology TXT letter generated?
On January 22nd, 2019 at 11:08 Eastern Standard Time in the morning.
In addition to the photographs that were explicit in this document, were there other photographs on that particular thumb drive?
Yes, there were.
Joint Defense Counsel 9E. Investigator Blay, I'm showing you State's 9E for identification purposes. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
It has my initials and the date on the bottom right.
And what does State's Exhibit 9E purport to show?
It is a paper printout of some of the digital photographs found in the thumb drive.
And is this paper printout a fair and accurate depiction of the way that those digital images were maintained on the thumb drive?
Yes, they are.
Tender 9E is State's next.
Any objection?
Judge, we object for improper character evidence on our prior motions in limine.
Can you approach? Objection overruled. So what's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit, and I'm sorry, what was the 9E, will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 253 in evidence.
Permission to publish?
You may.
And investigator lied, there were 4 photographs that were found on that thumb drive.
Yes.
I'm showing defense counsel 9G.
You may.
Investigator Blay, showing you State's Exhibit 9G. You recognize this?
I do.
What are we looking at here?
It is a paper printout of one of the photographs that I found on the thumb drive.
This is a accurate paper printout of the digital version of that file.
It is.
Tender 9G, the State's next.
Any objection?
None.
What's been pre-marked for ID as 9G will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 254 in evidence.
And again, everything that you've reviewed so far, what has been located on the thumb drive that we previously discussed.
Yes.
Okay. I want to move on to another item that you reviewed. And that would be the laptop. That was located in Margaret Amato's office. And just for the record, I'm showing you 235. This is the next thing we're going to talk about, this laptop, okay?
Okay.
Now, you've discussed now at least twice the process by which you make sure that you create an exact duplicate of a hard drive and the contents that are contained on it. Did you do that same process with this particular laptop?
Yes, I did.
Now, did the hash values match?
They match.
Okay. Now, I would like to ask you about the process again by which you make sure that you are conducting a proper forensic examination. Just very briefly, did you photograph this item?
I did.
Okay. And did you photograph the hard drive that you used to do your analysis?
Yes.
Showing 9H, 9J, 9K, 9L to defense counsel. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
Okay, we'll start off with showing you 9H. Do you recognize what's contained in 9H?
I do.
Okay, and what is it that we're looking at here?
It is the laptop that I examined sitting on the desk.
Okay, and I'm going to show you 9J. Do you recognize 9J?
I do.
What's that?
It is the back part of that laptop.
And 9K.
It is the solid state drive that I examined that was inside that laptop.
And 9L.
The front part, the front side of that solid state drive.
And are these photographs accurate depictions of the items that are contained therein?
Yes, they are.
We tender 9H, 9J, 9K, and 9L is what's next.
No objection, Judge.
What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9H will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 255 and evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9J will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 256 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9K will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 257 in evidence. And what's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9L will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 258 in evidence. You may.
So Exhibit 255. What does this item show?
I apologize.
What does this item show us here?
It is a photograph of the laptop that I examined sitting on a desk.
Okay, and also there's an Amazon Echo, I believe they're called.
Yes,
Did your unit attempt to analyze the Amazon Echo?
we did.
And were you able to develop anything relevant or helpful?
No, we're waiting for Amazon to,
So Amazon hasn't complied.
yes.
9J, excuse me, Exhibit 256. What are we looking at here?
That is the back cover of that computer.
257,
That is the solid state drive that was inside that computer.
258.
The other side of that solid state drive.
Okay. And that's what you examined.
Correct.
Now, I'm showing you exhibit, oh, excuse me, I'm showing Defense Counsel Exhibit 9M for identification purposes. May I approach the witness? Investigator Bly, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 9M for identification purposes. Do you recognize this item?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
It has my initials and the date.
And what does this item purport to be?
It is a subsection of my in-case report showing the device report for the solid state drive.
The laptop we just looked at?
Yes,
Okay. Is it a fair and accurate paper printout of that digital report?
it is.
We tender 9M to State's next.
Judge, we just re-raise our previous motions.
Okay, what's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit, I'm sorry, say that again. 9M, as in Mary, right, correct? Okay, what's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9M will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 259 in evidence.
May I publish?
Yes.
A couple of things about Exhibit 259, Investigator Bly. Does this indicate that the copy was an exact copy?
Yes, it does. Right here, the acquisition and the verification hash values match, both MD5 and SHA-1, which are two types of hashing functions.
Okay. And does this report indicate what time zone this laptop was set up for?
Yes, Eastern Standard Time.
Where do we see that at?
Right here, Eastern Time -5.
And did you verify the time zone, other than running this first initial summary report,
I did by looking at the BIOS of the computer.
the BIOS? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's deep down inside the computer somewhere?
BIOS stands for Basic Input-Output System. It is like firmware that when you, like a little program that when you start the computer, it makes sure that all the parts are there, like the RAM and all of that, and then it transfers control to the operating system.
Did you also determine whether there were any user accounts on this particular laptop?
I did,
How did you do that?
by looking at the registry with NCASE and my other forensic tools
So again, deep down inside the nuts and bolts, as it were, of the
in
laptop.
the system. Mhm.
Investigator Blay, I'm going to show you exhibits 9O and 9N as in Nancy. Let's look at 9O first. You recognize 9O.
I do.
How do you recognize it?
It has my initials and the date.
And what does item 9O purport to be?
It is a subsection of my report from Axiom showing time zone.
And is it a fair and accurate printout of the digital evidence on that particular computer?
It is.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 9N. Do you recognize that?
It is. I mean, I do.
Do you recognize what it is?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
It is a printout of my Axiom report showing user accounts.
And is this a fair and accurate paper printout of the digital information contained on Margaret Amato's laptop?
It is.
The tender states 9O and 9N is next.
Judge, we just re-raised our previous motions.
What's been pre-marked for identification as State's Exhibit 9N will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 260, and what's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9O will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 261 in evidence, and otherwise the objection is still overruled.
Mayor, publish.
You may.
So 260 on the overhead. Zoom that in a little bit. So what does this exhibit show us?
It's showing the user, one of the user, or the user account found on the computer. Margaret Amato, well, the directory path, I believe the actual username is in the bottom. Or no, it didn't.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 261. Let's go down here. What does that show us?
It shows the time zone that the computer was set to.
Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time, yes.
Any reason to believe that the computer would not be accurate in keeping track of the time zones based on your review of that laptop?
No.
Through your examination of Margaret Amato's laptop, were you able to determine if there was an email account set up on that laptop?
I did.
And how did you do that?
Well, by looking at the email files on the computer, on the Outlook email files.
And what was the account name of that particular email address?
Margaret.amato@nuance.com.
Pursuant to your examination of this laptop, were you able to determine whether any emails had been sent from that computer on January 24th?
Yes.
I'm showing Defense Counsel 9P. May I approach the witness? Investigator Blay, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 9P for identification purposes. Do you recognize this item?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
It has my initials and the date on it.
And what does this item purport to be?
It is a paper printout of an email thread that I found on that computer.
And is this a fair and accurate paper copy of the digital information that you retrieved from Margaret Amato's laptop.
Yes, it is.
You tender 9P Estates next.
Objection, hearsay.
Can I see it? Objection overruled, so it's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9. What was it? P will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 257? 262. Oh, yes, 262. Yes.
So this is a copy. This is State's Exhibit 262. Is this that email you located?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And there's a time and date stamp on the top of this email. Is that information generated by the person or by the computer?
By the computer.
And what's the time and date stamp on this email?
January 24th, 2019 at 4:14 p.m.
Does it otherwise match the time zone that this laptop was set up for?
Yes, it does.
Now, I'd like to ask you, Investigator Blay, did this laptop have a chat application installed on it?
It did.
And can you tell us what a chat application is?
It is like an instant messenger, so you can talk to other people, kind of like in real time.
And I'm showing Defense Counsel State's Exhibit 9Q. May I approach the witness? Investigator Blay, I'm showing you 9Q for identification purposes. Do you recognize this?
I do.
And, how do you recognize it?
It has my initials and the date on the bottom of it.
What does this document purport to be?
It is a paper printout of a chat conversation that I found on that computer.
And is the time that messages are sent time-stamped on this message?
Yes.
This is otherwise a fair and accurate paper duplicate of the digital information you located on Margaret Amato's laptop?
It is.
Tender 9Q is states next.
Judge, we would re-raise our prior motions, and we would do that for the last one as well. I know I said hearsay, but we would do it for the previous one as well.
Can I see the?
We're not objecting on hearsay grounds for this one, Judge.
All right.
Just our prior motion.
Then objection overruled. What's been pre-marked for ID as 9Q will be moved into evidence. The State's Exhibit 263 in evidence.
May I publish?
You may.
Placed on the overhead states Exhibit 263. Is this a paper printout of that chat application that you found, the last chat entry?
Yes, it is.
And what was the time of the last chat being sent from Margaret Amato's laptop?
It's right here, 4:44 p.m. on January 24th, 2019.
Now, I want to ask you a question between the difference between computer-generated activity and user-generated activity. Okay? Can you tell the jury the difference between computer-generated activity and user-generated activity?
Yes, user-generated activity is anything that a person does on a computer. Like, for example, if you're typing a Word document, or if you're searching the internet, or chatting in an application. Computer-generated activity are things that the computer does on its own in the background. For example, updating the event logs or the antivirus running and doing its maintenance.
So user-generated activity is sending emails or surfing the internet or stuff like that.
Yes.
Now, did your examination include reviewing user-generated activity from Margaret Amato's laptop?
Yes, it did.
And can you tell the jury when the last time there was any user or human-generated activity on that laptop?
Yes, January 24th, 2019 at 4:44 p.m.
So, Investigator Blay, is it fair to say that from 4:44 on January 24th, 2019, no human being did anything to that laptop?
Yes, that is correct.
Does that include turning it off?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, Investigator Blay, I want to ask some questions about an iPhone you worked on. May I approach the clerk? And I've placed on the projector the packaging for Exhibit 236 that's in evidence. Previously marked as item N2. Did you do any work on this particular item?
I did.
And can you tell the jury the first thing you did when you began working on item N2?
Well, we had previously worked on it already. Investigator Stewart had previously attempted to obtain an extraction. So the second time when I got the phone, it was powered off. So I documented the condition of it, of course. I placed the phone inside a Faraday box, which is a box that is designed to isolate any network communications to it. So, for example, so somebody can remotely wipe it. I then powered the phone on within that box. I verified that it had already been placed in airplane mode. And I connected the phone to GrayKey, which is a tool that we use to perform extractions of iOS devices.
Okay. And can you tell the jury some of the types of extractions that you can do on an iPhone?
Yes, it depends. It depends on the model of iPhone, what version of the operating system you're using, the tool that you're using. But in general, you can do a logical extraction, which is the contents of what you see right there. Doesn't get any deleted information, just whatever a user would see on the phone. You can also get a full file system that gets some of the databases, of the deeper databases that the system generates. And then there's a partial extraction. There's other different kinds of.
And did one of your folks in your lab attempt to do an extraction on this phone?
Yes, he did.
And did he run into some issues?
He did.
What was the primary issue that, and if you know the answer, were you there when that issue popped up?
Yes.
And what was the problem?
GrayKey restarted the phone, and then he didn't have a password. We didn't have the password at that time, so we couldn't get any information from the phone.
So the phone was password protected,
Yes, it was.
and you couldn't get back into it.
Yes.
And were you able to get back into that particular phone?
I did.
And how did you end up getting back into the phone?
Well, based on my training and my experience, I have noticed that a lot of people choose passwords that are related to dates that are important to them. So in this case, it was Chad's date of birth.
So it's a 6-digit passcode.
It was
You typed in,
072759.
and that unlocked the phone.
It did.
You just guessed that?
I did.
May I have a moment, Judge? Tender the witness pursuant to recall at a later date.
Cross.
Judge Cares, 1 moment. Good morning, investigator.
Good morning.
So you were not present in the Amato residence on the night of January 24th, 2019, is that correct?
That is correct. I was not present.
You have no idea when Cody Amato passed away, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you were not in the Amato home when the iPhone was plugged into Grant Amato's tower, that's correct?
I was not, yes, that is correct.
And you have no idea who plugged that phone into Grant's tower, correct?
Correct.
Therefore, you're speculating as to the person's intentions when someone that you didn't know when you weren't there plugged an iPhone into the Grant's tower, correct?
Based on all the evidence that we're going to talk about, that was found on the internet history, and the fact that they didn't know the password, and
The internet history of other devices?
of another device, yes.
Right. With other unknown users, correct?
Correct.
You weren't there when those people entered into whatever they did on those devices, correct?
Correct.
So you're taking devices with unknown people and speculating based on that what somebody did with a phone when you weren't there to plug it into a tower, correct?
Correct.
So you're engaged in mind reading, isn't that correct? And you're a forensic analyst, is that correct?
I am a forensic examiner.
As opposed to knowing what is in other people's minds, correct?
Correct.
You never examined a phone belonging to Cody Amato, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, we saw some photos on a flash drive of some checks and some cards and some IDs, isn't that correct?
Correct.
You have no idea when those photographs were actually created originally, do you?
I would have to look at the metadata on the photograph, or I would have to go back, but yes, it has metadata.
Okay, but you don't know that sitting here right now, though?
No, I would have to look at them. There were many photos.
Right, so you can't testify to when those images were created at this time, correct?
Correct.
And you said you analyzed Margaret Amato's laptop, is that correct?
Correct.
You didn't look before January 24th, 29 for times of inactivity, did you?
I did. I was trying to evaluate, establish a pattern of when she would stop working every day. So I did look.
So you noticed times of periods of inactivity prior to January 24th?
Yes, they were very random. Like sometimes she would work late, sometimes since she worked from home.
Okay, so you noticed for hours at a time when there was no activity, correct?
Yes.
And you were not able to establish some kind of common time when there would be hours of time off, correct?
Correct.
No further questions at this time, Judge.
Members of the jury, do you have questions of this witness? All right, please write them down. All right. Some of our jurors have questions. What is the creation date of the Christmas photos of Sylvie?
I would have to look. I would have to refer back to the thumb drive. I don't know it off the top of my head. There were so many files, and all of them had different creation dates. It was within the 2018 folder, so.
What is the creation date of the photo of breast with caption, "Kill it superhero," quote unquote? These are states 248.
Same thing. I would have to refer back. I don't know it off the top of my head.
What is the creation date of the photos of Chad's checkbook, Chad and Margaret's photos of driver's licenses, and of their credit cards?
Same thing. I don't know them. They were all within the 2018 folder.
And is there a time and date stamp for when the pictures were taken of the parents' license, credit cards, and passwords? If so, when were they taken?
Yes, they all had created dates. Within the metadata, I do not know them.
All right. Any questions based on those questions state?
Yes, ma'am. So you could go back and find out all that information?
Absolutely.
That
Yes.
information hasn't been changed or altered?
No, it has not.
Okay.
Any recross?
None, Judge.
All right, any more questions, members of the jury? All right, may this witness be excused.
Recall, yes, ma'am.
All right, so you're excused, but you're not released from your subpoena, so you're subject to recall, but you're free to go about your business. All right, so you may step down. Thank you. State may call their next witness.
Nicholas Stewart.
Mr. Stewart, if you could come forward and raise your right hand, be ready to be sworn.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the complete truth, so help you God. Thank you.
You may proceed.
Will you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for the court reporter?
Nicholas Stewart, Nicholas. Last name is Stewart.
And where do you currently work?
The Seminole County Sheriff's Office
How long have you been there?
since January of 2016.
And what are your duties with the sheriff's office?
I am currently assigned as an investigator to the Digital Forensic Unit.
Now, can you tell us what it is you do with the digital forensics unit?
We examine digital devices such as cell phones, tablets, computers.
And do you have any specialization in training with regard to digital forensics?
I do.
Tell the jury a little bit about that.
I've obtained my CFCE, or Certified Forensic Computer Examiner certification through IASIS. And IASIS is the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists.
Have you ever been a coach with regard to training other folks?
Yes, I have. I'm currently a coach assigned to the peer review phase for a student, which I do have assigned to me right now.
And do you know approximately how many examinations you've done and devices you've reviewed?
Approximately 200 or more.
Now, have you done forensic examinations of cell phones previously?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell the jury the steps that you have to do an exam of a cell phone?
So cell phones can be different from computers. Because the internal storage you can't just usually remove from the device. You have to plug it in, usually on, to whatever device you're going to use to obtain an extraction or download from the device.
And do you have any specialized tools that you use to obtain that information?
Yes, we do. We have multiple, just because every cell phone can be different. You have Android, iOS, Apple phones, stuff like that. So.
And did you have an occasion to do any forensic work on an Apple iPhone in this particular case?
Yes, I did.
Showing defense counsel 9S, 9T, 9U, V, W, X, Y, Z, as well as 10A, 10B, and 10C. May I approach the witness? Investigator Stewart, showing you 9S, T, 9U, 9V, 9W, 9X, 9Y, 9Z, as well as 10A, 10B, and 10C. Do you recognize these
Yes, I did.
items? And what are these? What is it that we're looking at here?
We have an evidence envelope containing an Apple iPhone.
Is this the Apple iPhone that you did your forensic work on?
Yes, it is.
And are these photographs, these exhibits, fair and accurate depictions of the Apple iPhone that you did your examination on?
Yes, they are.
We tender the state's next.
Objection.
None, Judge.
What's been pre-marked for ID is State's Exhibit 9S will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 264 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9T as in Tom will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 265 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9U will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 266 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9V as in Victor will be moved into evidence as 267 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as 9W will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 268 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9X will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 269 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9Y will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 270 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 9Z will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 271 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 10A will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 272 in evidence. What's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 10B will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 273 in evidence. And what's been pre-marked for ID as State's Exhibit 10C will be moved into evidence as State's Exhibit 274 in evidence.
May I publish, sir? We're showing Exhibit 264. Investigator Stewart, what are we looking at here?
It's an evidence envelope, evidence tag number N-2 for a specific case.
And I'm showing you Exhibit 266. What do we see here?
An Apple iPhone.
Is that your reflection in there?
Yes, it is.
267.
It's going to be the back of the phone with the case.
The phone that was in that envelope?
Yes, sir.
269. Another photo of the phone, is that true?
Yes, sir.
272.
Same phone, just different angle.
268.
That's going to be the SIM card tray and the SIM card that was within that device.
Okay. Now, and let me show you what's already been introduced in evidence, the State's Exhibit 236. Can I approach the witness? Is this the actual iPhone that you conducted your examination on?
Yes, it is.
Do you recognize the SIM card on the back?
Yes, I do.
Investigator Stewart, why is it that you photograph the items that you review for purposes of your examination?
There's multiple reasons. We want to document the state that the device comes to us when we initially get it, and then also to take pictures of the device and any identifying features on it to be able to identify it later.
Sure, like the SIM card, for example.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, was there anything that stood out to you when you opened the envelope, the evidence envelope packaging for this particular phone?
There was.
And what was that?
The screen of the device.
What was unique about the screen of the device?
It was pretty clean. So when we get cell phones, usually there's going to be smear marks, stuff like that, from just using your fingers from the oil that's naturally on it.
And so, did you see any fingerprints on the glass of that device?
No, I did not.
And is that uncommon?
Usually, yes.
So did you have an occasion to analyze an advanced logical extraction on the phone I just showed you?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell the jury the process by which you did that?
So a report was generated using Physical Analyzer with the extraction of the device itself. And that report that was generated is what I analyzed from that device.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this question. When Physical Analyzer is used, or any of these tools, when they're used, is there data on the phone that's destroyed such that the results on the phone would not be reliable?
No.
Okay, so how large can some of these extractions be?
It varies depending on the device, how much storage is on it, but it could be from a few gigabytes all the way up to hundreds.
Sure, and phones get bigger and bigger and faster every year, so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm showing Defense Counsel 10D. for identification purposes. May I approach the witness?
Yes. And that was 10D as in David?
10D is in David, yes, ma'am. Investigator Stewart, I'm showing you 10D is in David for identification purposes. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
By my initials and date on the corner.
And what does this purport to be?
It's a digital copy of the extraction report that I generated.
For the iPhone that we just looked at?
Yes, sir.
And is what's contained on this CD fair and accurate copy of the extraction report from that iPhone?
Yes, it is.
We tender 10D as states next.
So it's this time the objection is sustained.
With regard to Exhibit 10D for identification purposes, was a paper version of the information contained in 10D, generated for your review?
Yes, it was.
Showing defense counsel states Exhibit 10M as in Mary. May I approach the witness? Investigator Stewart, I'm showing you 10M as in Mary for identification purposes. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
And how is it that you recognize this?
My initials and date in the corner.
And what is it that we are looking at here in 10M?
It's a paper portion copy of the full extraction report that I generated for item N-2.
And of the portions that are contained within this particular exhibit, are they fair and accurate depictions of the digital version of the report that you generated in this case?
Yes, they are.
We tender 10M is next.
All right, approach. To the jury, we're going to take an early lunch. All right? So at this point, it's going to be, it's 11, we're about 11:30, a couple minutes after. We'll come back and we'll start up at 12:45. Okay? So we'll see you at that point. In the meantime, we'll come back at 12:30. I'll review these over lunch, and you guys can give me argument. Court's in recess.